as I said before, we've put in the toughest, most crippling sanctions ever. And the fact is, while we were coordinating an international coalition to make sure these sanctions were effective, you were still invested in a Chinese state oil company that was doing business with the Iranian oil sector.
Welcome back to Opinion Journal Live. That was President Obama at Monday night's final presidential debate, talking about his Iran policy and taking a swipe at Mr. Romney. Now, Iran is really emerging as the key foreign policy issue in these last 2 weeks in the run-up to Election Day. Foundation for Defense of Democracies Executive Director Mark Dubowitz is going to join me now to talk about Iran and the sanctions President Obama and his administration have put in place. He also has a great op-ed in today's paper, co-authored with Raoul Marc-Gerecht, titled Countdown to the Red Line in Iran. Mark, the president said unequivocally on Monday night that he will not allow Iran to get a bomb. How are sanctions supposed to help achieve that goal? Is the aim to cripple or to collapse the Iranian economy?
Well, the theory of the case on sanctions is that sanctions are going to do so much damage to the Iranian economy that they're going to actually put the survival of the regime at risk, and that Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader, will then change his risk-reward calculus with respect to the pursuit of nuclear weapons, and he'll cry uncle, and he will reach a deal with U.S. and negotiators from Europe, and we will come to some kind of agreement on Iran's nuclear program. That's the theory of the case. Okay,
so let's talk about where we are right now. The Iranian currency, the rial, it's in a free fall. Oil exports have been halved. Is this a success?
Well, it's a success to the extent that it is doing serious damage to the Iranian economy, but that's not the reason we designed sanctions. Sanctions were designed to, again, change this decision-making calculus and break the nuclear will of the supreme leader. There's been no evidence to date that that's actually occurred. We've had 3 failed rounds of negotiations with the Iranians. There's going to be a 4th round, but so far the Iranians have not budged on the key question of their nuclear program.
Mark, do the Iranians need a lot of money now to actually finish the program? And what's your projection for this sort of so-called nuclear drop-dead date?
Well, they clearly don't need a lot of money to actually finish the program. The real question on the economic side of this is, when is this economic cripple date going to occur? When will the regime face imminent economic collapse? And that's really a question of how big are their foreign exchange reserves? Do they have sufficient reserves to forestall economic collapse? And that's really a question of their balance of payments. I mean, it's their exports, their imports, their capital outflows, capital inflows, inflation. It's about the currency. And that, I think, based on our modeling, we think that they have sufficient foreign exchange reserves to last at least until July or August of 2014. Unfortunately, based on our analysis, we think the Iranians are going to reach the nuclear threshold at least a year or so before then.
Mark, would President Romney do anything different than what President Obama is doing now, given what you heard on Monday night?
Well, I think Governor Romney is going to come in with a very different negotiating strategy with respect to Iran. I think that Governor Romney is going to have to agree to negotiations. I think if he's got anything else in mind, he has to try diplomacy. But I think he will come in immediately and impose massive sanctions on the Iranians and then invite them to speak. And I think he will use that as a negotiating strategy. The more you spin your centrifuges, the more we are going to massively intensify these sanctions. And we're going to bring that economic cripple date forward so that we actually have time for these sanctions to bite before the Iranians become a threshold nuclear power.
Okay, President Romney, quote unquote, massive sanctions on Iran. You heard it here first.